knife skills wise. First thing I want to go over is sharpening knives. And one of the things that we have is, we have knife kits. A lot of our students will ask, what kind of knife do you want to use? They'll ask me that. And I always respond to them that I want to use a sharp knife. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what kind of brand knife that you use. You want something that's going to be sharp. For me, my preference in sharpening, there's a lot of different stones. You folks have some there, and it's a compact stone, so it has both of the stones I have in one. And they're both water stones. So what I do is I like to soak my stone for at least 20 minutes. What you're going to have, a couple terminologies you want to remember is when we start to sharpen, there's going to be a lot of gray material that's going to come out on you. It's going to be really dirty. I call that the bud. Okay, and that, you don't want to wash it off during the sharpening process, because that actually creates the abrasion that's going to help you sharpen the knife. Just remember this, to keep in mind, is that a cabinet maker finishes cabinet using 800 grit sandpaper. And again, it's nice and smooth, and it's really shiny, and it's almost to the point that it needs no more polishing on it. So they use 800 grit sandpaper on wood. Okay, on my knife, the stone that I use to start to do the bulk of the sharpening is 1500 grit. So this is significantly smoother than that sandpaper. When I get done, the second stone that I'm going to use is a 5,000 grit stone. And so basically what I'm doing is with the materials that I'm using, which is the metal, what I'm doing is I'm more than anything is I'm polishing it. And I'm polishing it so slow, it's so fine that it gives me a really sharp edge, and one that will be able to recover its edge very quickly. Okay? A couple things in stone, some people will tell you about, most people won't, is I have a stone like this, and it looks like a big piece of brick, and this is not a sharpening stone, but what this does is it's called a fixer. And we use it because when you're sharpening on your stone, what happens is the stone becomes concave. So what we want to do is we want to have a flat surface because we have a flat knife. So what we'll do is I'll just run it a couple times, and it begins to keep my stone nice and flat. Consider that these are part of your tools, and you can pay in excess of $80 to $100 per stone, and if you're not going to take care of them, you're going to have to buy another set really very short, sooner than you need. The stone that I have here, and it's still really flat, I bought this in 1988, and it's still nice and flat. Okay, so some stones you'll see people have them for like a couple of years, and then it's curved and it's sharp. So you want to be careful with that. With my knife, what I want to do is I always take the edge of my knife and I always go away from the edge. I never cut the edge into my stone. And the reason for that is, imagine the edge of the knife. In order for you to get it really sharp, we're moving metal particles around. And what we're trying to do is spread those little molecules of metal as fine as possible so I can get the sharpest edge. Hence, they look almost like a comb, really, when you put it on a magnifying glass. So if we're going to cut that edge right into the stone, we're going to start to chip off the thing that we're trying to achieve. So we're getting a negative result. So I always go the opposite way. With your knives that you have in your knife kit, they're what I call a 50-50 blade. So you have to sharpen at equal amounts on both sides. Right? Some manufacturers are different. They will tell you that on their box. So like this knife that I have here, this one is a 80-20. So I'll go 8 on one side, 2 on the other. The Kikuichi Slicer is a 90-10. Okay, so they're all different. So all I'm doing is, when I put my edge down, and what I do is I have my knife flat, and all you have to do is put your finger on the side of the edge, and if you pick it up, you'll find there's a point where it becomes flat. If you go too far over, you'll feel it. So if you just close your eyes and just feel that, you'll feel where it's flat. The other gauge I give you, if you imagine, if you put 2 pennies underneath the knife edge, that's the angle you want to get. About a 10-degree angle will give you a nice edge on your knife. And all I'm going to do is, when I sharpen my knife, I'm not going to push really hard. So a lot of times we think of sharpening metal by using a lot of energy. So we're not. We're just going to let the knife, and the stone do the work. And all I'm going to do is just push it nice and slow. Okay, nice and soft and then slide it right across the stone. And what I'm doing, there's two things I'm doing. One is I'm feeling it, what's happening to the metal, because you can feel it through the knife. Imagine like you're filing your fingernails. Okay, so if I had a really fine, like if I use a real coarse fingernail file and I file my nails, the nails will be rough. And you turn it over and use a real fine file, it starts to feel different when it gets smooth, right? And then if you and then the sound also changes as well, because the more abrasion, the more effort, when it's rougher to get smoother, there's going to be a lot more abrasion, so the noise will be louder, and the pitch will be higher. Okay, so then when you get it nice and smooth, the pitch changes, and the volume changes, because there's less resistance to what's happening. So those are two things that I'm doing, and I'm feeling it, and I'm listening for it. And when I get done, I'm going to just flip it over, and with this knife, I'm just going to go 2 times. And if you notice, one of the things that I try to do is not about how fast I want to push it. What I'm focusing on is the tip starts here, and I want the heel to finish here. A lot of times what will happen is, when you first start to sharpen your knife, because you don't fit your finish here, you see how it doesn't hit the end? What happens is the shape of the knife creates a dimple right here. Okay, so when you start to slice it, you can't slice all the way through, and that is the result directly a result of your sharpening. Okay. So we're just going to finish it here, just like that. And then we'll finish on the back side. Now, another thing to remember is that you are any left-handed. 1, 0. Okay. So everyone, remember. So because you're right-handed, you always want to have your last stroke on the left side. Okay? You want to have the last stroke on the left side, because think about this. When you're filing it, what we're doing is we're moving the metal. If I'm sharpening it on one side, I'm pushing the metal to the other side. Okay? And so what I want to do is I want to push that burr away from my hand, which is my left hand. My left hand is going to be against the metal. So that's why I always want to finish for me on my left side. For you, will be on your right-hand side. So then your right hand won't be feeling that burr. The burr will be on this side. Any questions so far? Pretty simple. Just remember, it takes some patience, a little bit of time, and a lot of practice. The knife kits that you have, you know, like I said, they're only as good as they are sharp. So a chef asked me to show you a couple things. I'm going to do a couple items that we do on the savory side. But when you're setting up your cutting board, even though you have a wood board here, you want to put some paper towels on here, so you put your cutting board on. And this will prevent it from sliding. Okay? Keeps it nice and keeps it from sliding. The other thing is these are your workbenches. You folks do a lot of patience on this. You want this bench to be very neutral. Okay? Although it's wood, you don't want to be cutting any onions or any savory products on it, because then the aroma gets caught in here. Imagine another person comes by and is going to make some cinnamon rolls, and it's going to roll their dough out, and you're going to pick up your off flavor. And it's amazing how long it will take before you can get that smell out of the bench. Okay, so you want to be very careful with that. So a couple things. We'll do, chef would like to do an onion. So one of the cuts we have is doing an onion. Oh, sharpening steel. Steel is basically works as a conditioner. Okay? And why I say it's a conditioner, all this will do is, with your knife, as you're using it, constant use, what happens is the blade, the edge goes out of true. If you imagine like your bicycle, when the wheel goes out of true and it starts to wiggle, that's the same thing that happens with the edge. And so putting it on the steel, all it does is it makes it straight. Technically really doesn't make it any sharper than it already is. All it's going to do is just put it back to straight, put it back to true. So when I'm using this, my suggestion to you, being that you have no habit with it, is I would start from the inside and pull it away. Okay? I start from the inside and pull it away. And again, it's not about how fast you do. You see chefs, we'll stand and we'll blaze through with a knife, but forget about the speed on this. And think about the accuracy. You want to set the angle, and you want to always pull it away. And you want to start from the heel and always end at the toe. And the reason I ask you to pull it away is because if it's coming to you, guess where the edge is coming? Okay? And what you don't want to have happen is if you miss the thumb guard, you're going to catch it right here. Okay, and just figure that you're going to be getting 2 stitches every time you catch it right there. Okay, so be careful with that. So that's about the steel. Now, julienne, julienne is a cut that is 2 inches long.